So, the Dutch Grand Prix has just finished. I mean, decent race, but
Yeah, it was
Lando dominance.
Good race. Lando dominance.
Yep.
I don't know. We're overdue a crash.
We're overdue a big crash.
We're
We really
overdue
are.
something.
We're overdue something.
I don't know. It didn't give me the Zandvoort feel
No,
that
Zandvoort's
we've had in previous years.
It's had better races. I think I'm staying hopeful because it was a better race than what we saw last season with Max's dominance. I mean, at least the top...
Well, it was a Lando dominance.
Well, it was, but at least the top 4 teams are all sort of within a shout of each other.
Yeah.
It's just Lando made the difference today.
It was ridiculous.
Yeah, and yesterday, as you were mentioning in the stream.
Yeah. It was unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Absolutely unbelievable. But yeah, good race nonetheless. But I'm sure we'll talk more about this as we get to the driver ratings. But does this mean championship back on?
In what regard? For Lando?
For Lando, yeah.
I don't think the championship was off. But if this is the form of Lando now, it's definitely back on because I can see Lando consistent podiums. I can see Max not always getting a podium.
Yeah, I mean, it's as simple as that, isn't it?
Yeah, the championship is not over. It's going to be hard, but it's not over.
Max, I think the way I see it is that based on the points that we have at the moment, Max is still favourite for the drivers.
Oh, 100%.
But
McLaren constructors,
despite still being behind, are favourites for the constructors, without a doubt.
Because they've got 2 drivers.
Yeah. Perez, though, didn't perform badly
Not awful,
this weekend.
but it's not of a Piastri. It's not of a Lando. It's not where he needs to be. He's still behind both Ferraris.
And they've got to watch out for Ferrari, haven't they?
Yeah, you got to watch Ferrari.
As well. So, but with that, let's get straight into it then. Let's just start with so we're going to do the driver ratings. We're going to grade them from 1 to 5, 1 being the absolute worst, 5th, number 5 being the best score you can be given. Sometimes we give 0s for absolute stinkers. And yeah, we're going to go from 20th all the way up to 1st. So first...
We've only given 1 0.
Which was Kevin Magnussen in Monaco.
Miami. Was it not Miami?
No, Monaco. Because he caused that 3-car pileup, didn't he?
Shit.
20th was Zhou Guan Yu. Qualified dead last, but didn't start last. Only because of other things happening around him.
Yeah.
But finished last.
By a long way.
By a very long way.
To his teammate.
It's a 1 for
It's a
Zhou.
1. It's a 1. I've given him a 1 as well. He was 30, 40 seconds behind Bottas at the end.
It's just not good enough.
No.
Like, we usually reserve 0s for people binning it, like Magnussen did in Monaco, where he caused the 3-car. Not only did he take his teammate out, he took Perez out and took himself out of the race.
It was outrageous.
It was outrageous. But I was very close to giving Zhou a 0 because it was that bad.
It was bad, but I mean, if he'd say he'd taken someone out, it could have been a 0.
It could have been. It was very close.
But he kept it clean. He just drove the car.
Not good enough for Zhou, is it?
No. He's not in Formula 1 next year.
I get that Sauber is just awful, but you can't be doing that.
No.
That's awful.
He's not in Formula 1 next year.
No, he's not.
That's it.
19th was Bottas.
Yes. Hopeful at the start of the race that he had a great start.
He did, yeah.
Decent quali.
Yep.
Compared to Zhou as well. I've just given him a 3 because he's been thereabouts and he was miles clear of Zhou.
Yep, I gave him a 3.
He's performing to the top of that car standards.
When you just look at the results and you don't look at the times, you might think, oh, you give Zhou a 1, you give Bottas a 3. But really, when you watch the race, Bottas at least made inroads at the start. It wasn't until the end he fell back.
Yeah.
And that's because the car just can't keep up. So, but Bottas is extracting everything. And like you said, at the end of the race, Bottas stopped more times than Zhou and still finished in front of him by a considerable margin.
Yeah, well, I think Zhou did end up pitting at the end as well. But
oh, did he? Okay. But still.
It was still miles behind before that.
Yeah, Bottas 3, there's not much more he can do. And the thing is, like, he could be putting in 5 drives every weekend, and you just wouldn't know, would you?
No, you wouldn't.
You'd have no idea.
You wouldn't.
18th, Kevin Magnussen.
Kevin.
Got stuck behind Yuki at the end.
He did, obviously started from the pit lane.
Yep.
Alternate strategy to everyone, starting on them hards.
Yep. Alternate strategy, which did work at first.
I don't know.
Then he got swallowed up.
He had an okay quali as well.
No, he didn't.
Did he not?
He went out in Q1.
Yeah.
I've given a 2 for Magnussen. It was a valiant effort to
But
try.
he wasn't far off Hulkenberg.
No, it was a valiant effort to try and get himself back in the race, but ultimately, it was his qualifying that let him down, and that means that they started him from the pit lane. And yeah, it's a 2 from Magnussen. It's not completely offensive, but
It's not awful from it. It's a high 2.
I mean, despite Hulkenberg's issues that he's had with his brakes, he's been outclassed by Hulkenberg again. So
well, yeah, but I think Magnussen had them issues as well. Just not as much in practice as Hulkenberg did.
It's just but it's 2 from Magnussen.
It's Haas issues.
It's a poor weekend from Magnussen, I feel.
It was poor, not poor.
No,
it's a steady Eddie.
No, it's pretty bad.
I don't say it's pretty.
No, because he
bad.
let himself
That's being a
down.
bit
He
harsh.
let himself down with the qualifying. He's got to be
but
getting
he
through
wasn't
to Q2.
miles off Hulkenberg though.
No, but in a qualifying where you're probably going to out-qualify Joe.
Well,
Sargent's not competing.
Either way, no matter where he bloody qualified, he was starting from the pit lane.
Why?
Well, he did start from the pit lane.
Yeah, but he wouldn't have if he didn't go out in
I think
Q1.
he would have.
No, you wouldn't.
Well,
You only start in the pit lane if you go out in Q1. Because obviously you want to make changes to the car. You don't want to be in the first lap chaos. But anyway, I've given a 2 to Magnussen.
right, Yuki.
Yuki, I've given a 2 to Yuki. It was a good qualifying, but he's let himself down in the race. His pace was nowhere compared to Ricciardo. Ricciardo had very good pace throughout the race. Obviously, Ricciardo's qualifying wasn't great, but then the race is where it matters, and Daniel just put in a better race than him.
Yeah, I mean, Yuki just got stuck. Was nowhere. It's a 2. There's nothing much more to say.
No.
It wasn't where you want Yuki to be. A long way behind his teammate.
Yeah.
It's a 2.
Logan Sargent.
Well, he didn't take part in quali.
No.
But that's down to him from practice 3.
Yeah.
So that's a straight 1.
Yeah.
Race-wise, it's probably a 3.
Yeah.
But that mistaking is really... I'm going to give him it's a lenient 2.
I'm giving him a 2.
It's a lenient 2. I don't think it's a... You could argue a 1.
You could argue a 1, but I'll tell you why I don't think it is. Because he started behind Tsunoda, Magnussen, Bottas and Zhou, right?
Yeah.
And he's at least managed to beat him.
Yeah.
So it's a good recovery drive for Sargent. Obviously, he'd ideally want to be higher, and if he did take part in qualifying, I think he'd be closer to the points than we think. But obviously, like you said, it's down to his own mistake. It was his fault that he binned it, so it's a 2.
Yeah. I said it was a 2.
Esteban Ocon, 15th. It's a 2 from me. It's a very poor
He had
weekend.
a poor quali.
He's had a poor weekend. Ocon, I mean, just look in comparison to his teammate. Like Ocon's just had a poor weekend.
That 2, it's a low 2.
It's a low 2
because he went out in Q1.
Yeah.
That's a 1 quali. It's not even a 3 race though.
It's teetering on a 1.
It is. He's on the edge of a 1.
He's on the edge, but I'm giving him a 2 because
I'll give him a 2.
He's not. It's 15th's not the worst you can do, is it really? So
I mean, there's worse.
There's worse. There's Logan Sargent.
And he was comfortably ahead of Sargent, Yuki, and Magnussen.
Yeah.
So.
14th, Alex Albon. Alex Albon's been very unlucky this weekend. He went to Q3, got Williams into Q3, but got disqualified because of the updates on the car, not being to the right spec that the FIA. Obviously the FIA regulate. So started from the back, did well to come through to finish 14th. Very good race. At one point looked like he could be in that battle of the Stroll, Alonso, Hulkenberg, Gasly for a point, but just wasn't close enough in the end.
No, it's a 5 quali.
It's a very good qualifying.
I've given him a 4 overall.
I've been a bit harsh. I've given him a 3.
That's very harsh.
It's harsh, but I was going to give him a 4, and I know it's not his fault, but I feel weird giving him a 4 when he hasn't scored a point.
Yeah, but it's probably the best qualifying performance we've had from him all year. Probably second best only to Lando Norris this weekend in qualifying.
Yeah, which we'll get on to.
So it's a strong 5. Race terms, he's come from last to 14th, was in a battle.
Potentially for a point.
Yeah, he went awfully far off at one point. A race is a very high 3. If you've got a very high 5 and a high 3, you got to go 4.
Alright, yeah, you've convinced me.
I'm not a fan of Albon, but
you don't have to tell me twice to change Albon's score to a 4.
no.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. I mean, this is what I mean. So before we move on, I just wanna comment that obviously when we did our driver ratings mid-season, Albon was very high on my list, and
Extremely high.
people were like, okay, maybe he was a little bit too high, but it's performances like this that he'll do that earn him high scores, and people won't remember them because, you know, he hasn't scored a point, or you know what I mean. So
Yeah.
this is why I rate Albon so highly, because he does stuff like this and people don't notice it. Like, I guarantee you by the end of the season everyone's going to forget this weekend for Albon.
Oh yeah, 100%.
So even though he did really well. 13th is Lance Stroll.
I've given him a 3.
It's a bit disappointing. It's almost a 2, but he was in that pack.
Yeah, it's a 3.
It's a 3 for Stroll.
I just it's Aston Martin. It's a 3. I don't think we need to dwell on that.
No, yeah, it's a 3 for Stroll.
Yeah.
Daniel Ricciardo.
3 again.
3. Let down by his quality.
Let down by the quali. Great race, and he was the one that I'm surprised was in the pack for the point.
Yeah,
because it didn't even look like he was there.
No, but he had pace.
But he is there.
He is there. He had pace at the end, and he came through. I can't help but think if he qualified better, he could have scored that point.
Yeah.
If he had that pace, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
so,
but it's a 3 again.
Yeah, 3 for Daniel.
Hulkenberg.
I've gone...
Not a world-stopping qualifying performance from him.
No, not world-stopping. I've gone with a 4 for Hulkenberg.
I went with a 4 purely off the basis that he was running in that points position pretty much the whole race.
He ran as close to getting the point as he possibly could.
Yeah, and I think his tyres just gave way, didn't they, last few
Yeah,
laps?
they did. And in a weekend where Haas have had issues, where Aston Martin and Alpine and even Williams look quicker than them, he's done well. He qualified well, he's raced well, and he's almost scored a point. So it's a 4 for Hulkenberg.
Yeah.
Very good weekend for him, especially in comparison to what Magnussen did.
Mm.
10th, Fernando Alonso.
Yeah, good qualifying performance, P7.
Yeah, good. Did the best
Very
he could.
good. Best of the rest.
He took advantage of Hamilton and Sainz going out.
Yeah. It's a 4.
It's a 4, yeah.
For the point. It's a 4 for the point.
It's a 4. I almost gave him a 3 because he was beaten by Gasly,
but I've given him a 4 because he's got the point.
I think it's less of Fernando underperforming. It's less of Fernando underperforming and more of Gasly overperforming.
Yeah.
So it's 4 for Fernando.
4 for Fernando.
9th was Pierre Gasly. I think we can both agree it's a straight 5. 5 for Pierre. He's ran a very good race.
I wish I didn't say Alpine with that surprise. I should have just gone with Pierre.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you get half a point for that.
I don't rate Ocon anyway, so
no, you don't.
It's a full point.
But Gasly, yeah, very good race. He fought Sainz hard as well.
Yes.
He fought Hamilton hard. He's fought the Astons hard.
Didn't give up.
Didn't give up the whole time, and it's earned him a 9th place.
Yeah.
So
the best you can probably achieve right now with the 4 teams, how fast they are.
Well, I mean, you know, we look at the table, and the only cars above him are the top 8.
Exactly. So
you know,
you can't.
It's a 5 for Gasly. Yeah. 8th was Lewis Hamilton. Recovered decently well, but couldn't make any inroads.
No, I've given him a 2.
A 2. That's really harsh. I've given a 3.
What is that race that he's done though? It is probably a 3 race.
I'd say it's a 4 race.
Well, science only started a couple places above him.
Yeah, I know, but as
And
we saw,
Sainz was clear of Lewis the whole time.
he was, but as we saw, that Ferrari had better race pace.
Well, yeah.
So we expected, the expectation was that the Mercedes would be quicker overall, but it turned out to not be the case. We saw George struggling earlier in the race to Charles and Piastri.
I can't give him a 3 with him being 8th out of all them, knowing that if he hadn't put in a 1 qualifying, because that's what his qualifying was. It was a 1. It was a stinker.
No, but this is why I've
It was
given
an
him
absolute shocker, and I can't give him a 3, knowing the fact that if he hadn't had a stinker in qualifying, he's probably podium.
No, but this is why I'm giving him a 3, because I think, despite the qualifying, which was stinky,
Yeah, but
he's recovered well, and he put some mad overtakes in as well.
Hamilton qualifies, let's say 4th,
Yeah.
and let's say he's had the race to pace, he's probably around 4th again. What race has he had that's a 4? Would you say?
Probably.
See, man's stunk the gaff out, qualified in 12th, got dropped 3 places, but then up 1 because Albon's disqualification.
Yeah, by the way, that was bullshit as well.
Yeah, it was bullshit drop there. And
bullshit penalty.
Only come through to 8th, whereas Sainz was actually got himself into a battle, and he wasn't far off Piastri at the end.
No, I do get your point.
I'm being harsh. It's a 2, and
I'm being lenient.
I'm a Hamilton fanboy, but I'm being harsh on him. Fuck him.
Fair enough. No, I'm going to give him a 3. I think it's a good recovery drive from Lewis Hamilton.
It's a 2 from him.
And there's nothing more he could have done. Like, what else is he meant to do?
Not fuck up quali.
Yeah, of course. And I know. But also, might I remind you, during the Hungarian Grand Prix,
Yep.
George Russell did exactly the same thing. Fucked quali, came back through to finish top 8, and we gave him a 3. We said it's a bad quali, but also he's had a very good race to recover for some decent points.
Yeah.
So I'm working off that logic. Then again, George in Hungary, it was partially Mercedes' fault that he had a poor qualifying, but still George had to make that recovery drive the same way Hamilton had to make that recovery drive.
Yeah, but it was Hamilton's fault fully in quali.
Yeah, and that's where maybe the difference is, but I'm still giving him a 3.
I'm still giving him a 2.
7th is George Russell. I've gave George a 3. It's almost a 4 because he had a very good quali.
Yeah.
And he was running a very good race, and Mercedes did screw up the strategy. But I think if I don't know, I've got just this gut feeling it's a 3. I don't think it's quite a 4 because
7th.
Yeah, I mean it's Mercedes' fault.
I mean, Hamilton was catching him as well on them softs, and they were a lot older.
I get the feeling that George maybe overcooked his tyres at the start of the stint.
Maybe.
And I think that's why I want to give him a 3, because if he didn't, and he saved his tyres a bit more, he might have caught Perez.
Well, yeah, we didn't see George's flash up for fastest lap, but we saw Hamilton partway through his last soft stint put in a fastest lap.
Yeah. He might have overcooked his tyres.
I think he overdid it.
Yeah, possibly. But it's not a bad weekend for Russell.
I mean, it's bad for Mercedes.
Yeah. George played no fault in Mercedes' screw-ups.
No.
Because Mercedes were the ones who told
Overall,
him.
this weekend, it's a bad weekend for Mercedes.
Yeah, Mercedes have had a poor weekend. And they came into it the favourites after the back of Belgium.
Yeah.
So, 6th, Sergio Perez. Much better from Perez. Much better.
Much better from Perez. Still a 3.
Yeah, 3. No, it's where we expect him to be.
Yeah.
It's good from Perez.
Still a 3.
It's not worldy, but when your teammate in the constructors needs your backup, this is where he needs to be. If Sainz goes out,
I would like him to be ahead of Sainz if I'm Red Bull.
Yeah, but based off where he has been,
yeah,
it's not awful. So yeah, 3 for Perez.
3 for Perez.
Sainz finished 5th. What you give me, Carlos? I've give Carlos Sainz a 3. Very poor qualifying, like Hamilton, but same logic as Hamilton. He recovered. And it's 3 because Ferrari clearly had better race pace.
I've given Sainz a 3, and that's why I gave Hamilton a 2.
All right, fair enough.
Because I think Sainz was in a similar position to Lewis and just did better at it.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair logic. 4th, Oscar Piastri.
3.
I'm interested. 3. Why have you given him a 3?
Why? If you've given him less than a 3, you're fucked.
No, I haven't. I'm just asking why.
Well, 3. Well, he qualified P3.
Yeah.
Decent quali. Lando's just outclassed him. He's got caught off at the start. Didn't get George. Got caught behind Charles at the end. Didn't make any moves, but it was a solid race still.
Yep, I've given him a 3.
So it's a solid race. That he had potential to do more, and that's what's let him down here.
I've given him a 3. I almost did want to give him a 2 because of the...
That would have been really harsh.
It would have been really harsh. I didn't, and I'll tell you why. So I almost wanted to...
Scared of the comments.
No. No, I wanted to give him a 2 because of the comments. Because the comments have been overhyping him so much. I'd be like, well, that's the expectation.
That's not his fault.
No, I know it's not. I know it's not Oscar's fault. But I wanted to be like, well, you overhyped him, and now look what he's done. He's trash, washed. There you go.
He's not.
Proof's in the pudding. But obviously, it's not Oscar's fault. It's not that he's been overhyped. It's not... He's not washed. Oscar's a very, very capable driver. Oscar's a brilliant driver. I think McLaren do have one of the strongest, if not the strongest, driver lineup on the grid right now, based off what's happened this season. So, yeah, Oscar Piastri, very solid race. He got unlucky that he got bogged down off the start.
I wouldn't say it's unlucky. I think it's down to him.
Well, yeah, it is, and where Lando exceeded, he didn't, and he didn't make any inroads on Charles.
Yeah,
he should have got past him. And the same with George at the start. So it's a 3 for Oscar.
3 for Oscar.
3rd, Charles Leclerc.
Give him a 5.
I've given him a 5. I think it's a brilliant weekend from
Because
Charles.
of that Ferrari. Where did he qualify? P5?
Yeah. Qualified P5.
I mean, you can't argue with that one.
Qualified P5 was the best that the Ferrari, especially since your teammate goes out Q2 as well.
He had a good start.
Yeah, great start.
Got Perez when he needed to.
Yeah.
Got George on the undercut.
Yep.
Got Oscar.
Yep.
And kept it.
And finished
And wasn't far off Max.
2.5 seconds behind Max at the end.
Fair play.
He's done very, very well.
Fair play.
It's a 5 from Charles. I just want to point out something as well about Charles. I know I don't, touch wood, don't want to jump the gun, but those mistakes that I've always criticised Charles for,
They're going.
the consistency,
They're going.
they are starting to be ironed out, aren't they? And if this Charles Leclerc can bring this form next season, potentially if Ferrari are in the running for the title, I think he's got a very good chance of the championship, hasn't he?
He's definitely got a shout.
A very good chance. 2nd, Max Verstappen.
Max Verstappen.
Yeah.
I've given him a 5.
I've given him a 5 as well.
There's not much more he could have done.
No. When Max was dominating, whoever finishes second and does it, quite convincingly, we usually give them a 5.
Yeah. He got himself into first.
Now it's just the roles are reversed.
He got himself into first as well at one point.
Yep.
So you got to give him credit that he tried.
Yeah, he tried. Yeah. He tried.
He literally did the best that he physically could do. It was just the fact that there was an unbelievable drive from Norris.
Yeah.
And let's not be like Piastri's like Perez. Piastri's better than Perez.
Yeah.
And Piastri's down in 4th. That's unbelievable. It's an unbelievable quali lap for one, and it's up there with Max Verstappen before he binned it at Saudi sort of levels.
That would have been an insane lap.
It couldn't be far from Lewis Hamilton at Singapore.
It's
levels.
Lando's quali lap is one of the best quali laps we've seen in a very long time.
Yeah, we've had some nearly, but he completed that lap.
It was. I don't know if it's going too far to say this, but it was.
Yes, it's going too far to say this, so don't say it.
Why? What do you think I'm going to say?
Go on.
It was very... Oh, shit. It was very Ayrton Senna-esque. It was. When Senna would just whack it in first, a second in front of Prost and the rest of the field?
I wouldn't say He's got to do it consistently.
No, I mean in comparison to, because obviously the gaps. Back then, you could set your car up. Senna would often set his car up for qualifying to make sure he smashed pole, right? You know, we don't really see that anymore. The teams usually set their car up just primarily for the race, and it's a lot closer, and it's usually the driver that makes a difference. And bear in mind that McLaren was Volkswagen then as well.
Yeah. I mean, we've had a couple of blinder laps from Max as well.
Yeah. But the way Senna would just absolutely whitewash the field, kind of felt how Norris did yesterday. It felt like no matter what anyone else did, Norris was always going to be.
The two that it came to mind for me straight away in recent times is Hamilton at Singapore.
Yeah.
And then Hamilton in the wet at the Styria.
Yes. I think the
Max at Monaco.
I think Hamilton at Singapore was a bit different though, wasn't it? Because we always felt like Norris had a chance at pole, but Hamilton...
Singapore had no chance then, that one.
We weren't even considering Hamilton for pole.
Well, he beat the sim time for that Mercedes by how much did they say?
I don't know. It was
a good second, I think.
But anyway, it was Norris that made the difference today and yesterday, and it's a 5 for Norris.
Probably the best 5 of the season.
Wow.
From us, do you not think who's?
I think
who's 5?
I think
been
Verstappen
better?
in Bahrain. Yeah.
I don't know because that Red Bull was clear.
Yeah, but so is that McLaren.
Not as clear as the Red Bull was at the start of the year.
I don't know. It was a long time ago, wasn't it?
It's definitely not as clear as that. Because McLaren, you got to think they were battling the Mercedes for 7th and 8th in Bahrain.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
But yeah, Norris 5, probably the best drive that we've had this year. One of.
Absolutely.
And long may it continue. Let's bring on Monza next week.
Yeah, bring on Monza. That is it for the driver ratings. Well, let's move on to who is your star of the weekend? Who impressed you the most?
Norris.
Has to be Lando Norris.
You can't not say Norris. Like, you got honourable mentions of Gasly, Sainz, Charles.
No, I wouldn't throw Sainz in there. Shocking quality.
Shocking quality of the weekend, not Sainz, of the race. Sainz.
Yeah, the race. I think my honourable mentions would be Gasly and Albon for the weekend as a whole.
You can't say Albon.
I can.
He's 14th.
He got disqualified and qualified in Q3. You just convinced me to change your score.
Yeah, but he's not an honourable mention of a Gasly, a Charles, Max.
Yeah, he is.
He's not in amongst that. We've given him a 4.
He would have finished in the points.
He's not even got a 5.
Well,
man's not even on a 5.
Yeah, but if he didn't get disqualified, he gets a 5 because he gets points.
He did get disqualified. I don't think he gets some points either.
I do. But either way, yeah. I mean, it is Lando, isn't it?
Oh yeah, it's Lando.
It's Lando. Who is your disappointment of the weekend? Flop of the weekend. Don't say Zhou.
I can't say Zhou.
It's a cop out.
Hamilton.
Yeah, I think mine has to be.
Hamilton's let me down this weekend.
I'm going to say Ocon.
I had no expectation for Ocon, but yeah, I can see it.
I'm going to say Ocon because
I think
Yuki
should have a mention there.
We've seen this season Ocon and Gasly very closely matched.
Can be, yeah.
And at a time where Alpine are in that mid-pack battle, they need Ocon to be picking up 10th if Gasly's 9th. Or at least in a position to do so.
Around Hulkenberg.
Around Hulkenberg, yeah. And he wasn't. And I think that's disappointing.
Yeah, I think Yuki deserves a shout.
Yeah. Yeah.
You got whitewashed by Daniel.
Yeah. But anyway, that is it for our driver ratings. Make sure to like, subscribe. Tell us in the comments below who you think was the flop of the weekend. Who was your favourite driver of the weekend? Who impressed you the most? And is Norris going to bore fans with his dominance? Let's find out, shall we, for the rest of the season? Bring on Monza!